opportunities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, is a critical piece of the equation. Critical piece of the equation. Like, investors choose you and then your idea. Investors put the people that they know that are the best at X, whatever X is, into the companies they're investing in everywhere else. And so we were having a long conversation about this, and with this group of people went through really 12 months of curiosity around that idea and what it is we needed to do. And in the process, learned that I had what I now described as corporate professional loneliness. I didn't know, well, I'm a very extroverted person. There aren't enough people that can be my friend. I needed peers who were answering the kind of level questions that I was answering, that were walking the path, not just like me, but enough like me, especially as a woman, that we could recognize some of the challenges that were unique to our situation.
And helped you not feel lonely.
Yeah, absolutely. And were trusted advisors. Yeah, they were women who looked like me and sounded like me. We were actually super diverse in age and skin color. What we weren't diverse in is where we were all professionally. And having somebody you can go to really talk about the hard stuff, along with what I think is interesting is, I think it was 85% of that group of people were the main breadwinners for their family. They had stay-at-home husbands. They had husbands who had or didn't have a husband, or all various versions of that, but ultimately were the financial driver for safety and security in their future. And that whole question, I noticed how hard the owning your expertise and owning why you are uniquely awesome was for all of these women who were amazing. And it got me very, very curious about that in general. And, when you have a team going from 30 to 400, why do you choose one person over another when you're creating opportunities or spinning up projects and all of these sorts of things? And it became this drumbeat of obsession for me. And I was standing in line when I left Pandora. I started experimenting with just what I thought was interesting, and ended up doing a project that married my curiosity about 3D printing, my curiosity about podcasting, and the fact that I needed to work on my health and fitness. And I started a podcast called 3D Lila, where I literally 3D printed myself to help myself lose weight, because I thought the scale was a horrible judgmental thing and I didn't need it in my life. And that's what got me invited to speak at TED. And it was standing in line, because that, by the way, is the secret of TED. The speakers are amazing, without a doubt. The people that you meet standing in line, I stood in line with Shonda Rhimes at one point, and I had a whole fan moment, which kind of lost my mind. And then you go, she's just a normal person like the rest of us. But I was talking with a Microsoft executive, and I asked her, and she was amazing. She ran a very strategic part of the organization in their HoloLens division. And I said to her, I was like, well, what is it you are known for? If I was to ask people about you, what would they say? And she said, oh, I don't know. I guess Microsoft girl. And I laughed and I said, oh my God, that's super boring. You should fix that. Unfortunately, she laughed right back to me and said, yeah, I think I should. And she ultimately called me about 6 weeks later and said, wow, that was a really interesting conversation. And it haunted me a little. And would you come up to Redmond and talk to my team about it? And I said, sure, absolutely. And then she said, can you send me a proposal? And I went, oh, hang on a second. This is an opportunity. Long story short, it was there that I realized that I had this, because I have been obsessed about this topic of the intersection of relationships and fear and future and everything, that I realized that I had a really different point of view about it. But I will also say, because that voice in your head is still a bit of a beast, when I was there, I did what I'm now known for, which is one of my fairy godmother transformations. I take both men and women, or Cinderellas in my world, and I transform how they are seen both by themselves and by other people. Because if you think about it, if when Cinderella and the fairy godmother met, all Cinderella said was, I want to go to the ball. She did not say marriage and happily ever after. She just said, I just want to boogie with the prince. And the fairy godmother just sat there and said, well, if you want to get to the ball, we're going to have to get you past a whole bunch of decision makers. And if you show up in that sad little dress and no shoes, they're not going to let you pass the front gate. And so what the fairy godmother did was help her get past all the decision makers, made it easy for other people to say yes to her. But what she also did, which I think is part of really the psychological part of doing this, is she gave Cinderella the confidence to gracefully enter down the stairs with all of the confidence she should, because if Cinderella had snuck in a back door and just said, oh, I'll just, as long as I'm in the ball, he can choose me, the prince would never have seen her and had the opportunity to ask her to dance. And that whole idea of
giving her the potential.
Confidence and her potential. And, you know, I have a whole 10 reasons why I actually think Cinderella is awesome, which I will not share. We're on a slower show, but I sit here and I go, the reality is it doesn't matter. Even I have a whole army of fairy godmothers, but everybody needs a fairy godmother in their life to infuse them with the confidence to realize that they can then create the space to experiment. And it's an experimentation in ideas and being intentful about that. In Cinderella's case, actually going to the ball and what have you, that really magical things start to happen. Although I will give the fairy godmother bonus points. I think the whole shoe on the stairs thing was absolutely a marketing strategy, because what the shoe was swag. The shoe was basically there to remind the prince why Cinderella was awesome so he could find her. It was like a customer brief behind there. It's all a full strategy.
When you talk about the fairy godmothers in your life, these are the men or the women or the both that are able to help you through those sort of difficult times? Are these the people that allow you to see your potential, your future, when the, ongoing chatter is there?
Absolutely. Because the thing about potential, and I call myself a potentialist because this is what I do for others. The thing about potential is that while it's about you, it's not about you at all. It's actually about how others react to you. And when you think about whether you are an entrepreneur, an executive, somebody who's trying to figure out their career, whoever, the thing that happens when we are talking to each other is we are sitting here saying, is there potential for future shenanigans with this person? And so often when we first start talking to somebody, or we constantly talk about our past or what we've done, we don't talk about our potential and what we could do. And I sit here and I go, well, that's the thing that we all want to connect with. And you can probably even hear in my voice, I get very excited about the future because that's there. And I think about entrepreneurs specifically, and I say, look, you are building the future and it's getting people along. Like, you are a fairy godmother too around your idea. But how do you get as many people as possible to be fairy godmothers with you?
Tell me something. Do you think your upbringing has made it harder or easier to master a mindset for success?
Easier, because the rules kept changing. And the sooner I learned that the rules always change, the easier it has been to move from an old rule construct to a new one. We're doing the same. The COVID has forced all of our hands to create a new rule book. And has this year been easy? No. But am I much more comfortable with pivoting like everybody else has this year? Yeah, totally. Because I have strong muscles on new rule books.
And lots of experience.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this in our remaining minutes. What do you think good founder DNA looks like?
That is a really great question. I actually don't think there is a certain set of characteristics for anybody. Because this is where I think labels limit us. Because if I mention anything, somebody's going to go, that is me or that isn't me. And the reality is that everybody is actually the CEO, founder, and head of product for You Inc. For their own company, because your time is your product. And so in my head, everybody has entrepreneur DNA and everybody has the potential. And quite frankly, everybody is an entrepreneur. Just the company might not have a tax ID. Well, it is. It's their social security number, right? Or at least in the US.
We're going to have to stop, but that was very inspirational. Now we can all go away feeling like we have our futures ahead of us, and we just have to kind of go to the ball and get it. I want to thank you very much for sharing with our listeners today your motivation for why you chose to be a female entrepreneur, and also how you overcame some of the many and interesting psychological obstacles that you encountered during your journey. Where can people reach out to learn more about your work?
Absolutely. Best place is on our website at joannabloor.com. Okay. I'm sure you'll put links in there. But if I'm very active on both LinkedIn and on Twitter at Joanna Bloor on both. And so always up for questions and ideas. And I publish quite a bit on both to share more ideas of how to navigate the future you, whatever journey you're on.
Thank you so much for joining me, Joanna. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
This podcast is brought to you by Women Entrepreneurs Global, the first startup studio and digital DIY startup platform for women. For more information on her guests, this podcast, and many other female founder programs, please visit womenentrepreneurs.global. We believe in open and non-stigmatizing dialogue about the hidden psychological difficulties experienced by many successful entrepreneurs and highlighting the strategies used to overcome them, such as the fear of failure, of not being good enough, and that loud, chattering internal critic is critical to helping other founders achieve success. Please join her next week for more Mindset for Success stories. That was Dr. Leslie Knudsen, and you can drop her a line at dr.leslieKnudsen@dr.leslieknudsen.com.